hopefully be with us extremely soon. But welcome to, where's it gone? There we are. Hopefully we're all moving. Welcome to episode 3 of One World, One Blood Bowl. Let's hope we have many more. But for our third one, I've got, I think, a lovely, lovely lineup of freshly cleaned and washed people, culled from all over this globe of ours and from all over Blood Bowl. So in no particular order, but just how they are appearing on my screen. I'll just tell you who they are, and then we'll have a quick chat with each of them, and then we'll just throw things open and see where we end up tonight. I'm very pleased to be joined by who has, I've been told, the finest NAF coach in North America. What a boast! But also the tournament director of all tournaments on Fumble, one of the sites for playing Blood Bowl on the webs. Bazakastine, my good friend Colin, say hello.
Hello, everyone. I don't think I'm the finest NAF coach in North America, as I've never played a NAF game in North America, but we'll work on that.
That it's untested and could be true. Next along on my screen is the lovely Gdaynick, owner of the Blitz Pitt brand, and a fine proponent of Australian-style Blood Bowl. Hello, Nick.
Hello. Glad to be here.
What a cheeky grin. It must be very early in the morning for you. Have you had your bacon?
It is a tad, yes. I have woken up at the crack of dawn just to be here to chat with you people.
Well, I'm absolutely thrilled. Okay, yeah, I need to add Andy to this call, so I'm not sure I've done that for a while, and he may not have been able to, so let me just click out of it, and then I should be able to give him a call, and hopefully he will join us. Where are we? And with a we should be back. And there we are. Can you hear us, Andy?
I can indeed. Sorry, I was just going to mute the stream first.
Fantastic. And we can hear you too. What have I done there? There we go. So we're just saying hello to Nick, who, as I said, owns the Blitz Pit brand, well known for his streams, his Australianness, and yet, despite being Australian, quite good at the Blood Bowl. On the Blood Bowl 2 client, has won the Chalice, I believe, twice.
Yes, the twice, and the larger achievement of winning SFL twice.
Yeah,
experiment, I'd say.
Not really sure what that is. I'm not sure anybody knows. And then let's go and say hello to Carr. I don't think we can hear him, but let's try to.
I was saying that's exactly two people caring about us.
Well, let's hope the other one is here watching.
Little Blood Bowlers.
There we are. Oh, I ruined it. Could you give it to them one more time?
Good evening, Little Blood Bowlers.
And I know that's what the vast majority of people are here for. So Carr, of course, joining us again, as is the lovely AndyDavo. Let's say hello, Andy.
Hey, how you doing?
Thank you. You've had a busy day, I believe.
Yes, I managed to sneak through in the last round of Chalice, so round 4 awaits. Round 1 exits are now a thing of the past.
Yeah, now it's more sort of falling at the final hurdle, isn't it? That's the new thing.
I hope so. That'd be nice to get to back-to-back finals.
Good luck this season. I've only ever reached a final, never managed to win one, but you have, haven't you, Cor?
Yeah.
And Nick, you've done it twice.
Just to prove it wasn't a fluke the first time.
So feel free to ask for some tips, Andy. That's what I'm sort of saying. And then the one person, I'm so sorry, the one person we haven't said hello to yet is I'm very pleased to say hello to Mike. Hello, Mike.
Hello. I think we've established I'm comfortably the worst Blood Bowler on this stream, so that's good.
but quite possibly the greatest Blood Bowl theoretician and statistician alive.
Enthusiastic.
Well, that counts because
Absolutely.
That's not something I want to do at all. So that definitely puts you way ahead of me. And if anyone's wondering, the lovely graphs that we've looked at over the last couple of episodes, a lot of that work has come from Mike, also known as San0638. Why? Where's that name come from?
It's my university username. So I was the 638th person to get an email at St Anne's College in Oxford. So, and then I decided it would be a good idea. And then I didn't realise when you joined the NAF that this would actually come to define you as your name. So I just used it as a login for everything. Yeah,
That happens.
I thought about changing it a few times, but then once it's become established, it seems a bit daft, doesn't it?
It is now who you
So,
are, yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Who wants to kick off? Let's start with Blitz Pit because we've literally just had that. That was last weekend. How do you feel it went, Nick?
I was excited and happy how it went. Maybe not my best team building rule set. I tried to push a couple teams a little more because they really hadn't seen any action in the tournament, and then obviously tipped the scale a little too far, maybe with the Necro Orcs seeing quite a lot of play. But some good games, some good fun times, and generally happy with the whole thing. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
Do you want to explain what it is? I haven't heard of it.
yeah.
to be
For
honest.
anyone that doesn't know, I'll cover that. Nick came up with an idea, I believe, yourself.
I mean, mostly within my own brain, yeah.
Yeah, to run a Blood Bowl tournament, a double elimination tournament with 16 invited coaches originally from all over Blood Bowl 2. And they would play a sort of NAF designed team, but with a rule set each time that Nick changes up. So sometimes it's a bit bigger than, I mean, when I say a standard NAF, I know that Core's secretly shaking his head going, there's no such thing. There is. We all know there is. So sometimes it's a bit bigger than the standard NAF. Sometimes they would say everyone can have a mutation or something like that. And then the 16 teams play each other in a knockout format, but it's double elimination. So if you lose one round, you still get to drop into the losers bracket and play through that. Except that the final, there is only a single final for the person that's won all the way to the final. They don't get a second shot at that. And I'm lucky enough to have been invited and to have played in a few, as has Andy and Core and Baza. So it's only you, Mike. Sorry that hasn't.
I know.
But it's a fun format. It's all over for a couple of days. It happens in 3 sessions, 1 on the Saturday and then 2 on the Sunday if you progress that far. And there's usually a chunk of money up for grabs, not sort of life-changing money, but I mean, what did the big one have, Nick?
Big one, which Mr. Davo won, had $1,000 prize pool US. I think the top prize was somewhere around the $500. I can't quite remember, but yeah, yeah, something of that sort. But standardly, they've been floating between $100 and $350 US. Not. It's kind of been a group sponsorship, crowd-funded sort of thing, which has been a lot of fun. Lots of people have been, who saw the first couple and wanted to get behind it. So it's got had a real bit of backing to it, and a really fun project. Yeah.
And it's 11 you've had now?
Yes, 11, and then a whole bunch. The most recent ones have had qualifiers and such. So
where did that spring out from? From an invited crowd, we suddenly went to everybody. So was that always the dream, or?
It wasn't always the dream, but at some point there was lots of people. I got lots of people messaging me saying, "Hey, I'd like to be part of this." And it's hard. You can't just say, "Oh, well, yes to everyone," and then suddenly you're squeezing, 30 people into a 16-man tournament. It doesn't work, and so this wanted everyone to be, involved in some way. Added the qualifiers, and that turned out to be one of the better features of Blitz Pit, I think, in the whole end of it. The qualifier events and people getting to have a go, and it's. I mean, while it's like the qualifiers being single elimination and the main event being double elimination, can be a bit harsh if you lose your first game, your first couple games. You don't get to play anymore. Like, if you were at a regular tournament, you'd still get to play a couple more games. But the fact that there's no meaningless games is I feel is a good addition, right? So if you're playing a game
online,
you
isn't
can
it?
win the whole thing, right?
Yeah,
You can still have a go.
Because you could never have a knockout event on tabletop. It just wouldn't be a thing, would it? So,
No. Wouldn't
Yeah.
be feasible.
I mean, traveling sometimes, the length of the country, let alone in America, which is, I'm sure, a much bigger thing, and maybe Australia. We should come on to both of those. Or Core, who's been to, was it 16 different countries to play NAF games?
Yep.
Wow. And then you get there and, you have terrible dice in the first 3 turns. And you're just thinking, well, it's a long time till that plane. So, yeah, I mean, congratulations, Nick, for inventing a format that really did... I mean, I don't know how easy it is, like with this, to get sort of the information out that you're trying to do something. But it really did seem to catch people's eye, the Blitz Pit, didn't it?
To start off, it was a lot of work. And it still is quite a bit of work organising it all. But I think by like the 3rd or the 4th one, I think I'd really started to catch a bit of the community's eye, or at least in the Blood Bowl 2 streaming space. It really did start to catch. Oh, Blitz Pit's on in a couple of weeks. I'll make sure to watch that. I often saw people in Twitch chat saying, if they knew Andy was playing, or Jimmy was playing, or Rick was playing, or one of the streamers, they'd be, hey, what are you bringing to Blitz Pit? Good luck in it, sort of thing you're seeing in the chats and such. And so, I started to see that it, was becoming a bit of a fun community event, which I guess was the main goal for it, like was to become like a streamable, not product, but a streamable sort of thing, which you can sit down and watch, because people love watching Blood Bowl. Well, people probably in this chat probably, all hear like, oh yeah, I watch a bit of Blood Bowl. They could think to themselves. But people really love watching Blood Bowl, whether it's, whether it's Fumble, whether it's on the Blood Bowl 2 through Twitch, whether it's, they're at the local, league, and, the final table is on and they, crowd around that. It's something that people really love doing, is watching Blood Bowl. But it's pretty tricky to watch in the online space, like a whole tournament. Like if you were to watch a whole tournament, you'd be like, oh, okay, you gotta maybe follow some Discords or threads somewhere about when the games are being scheduled. And it's like, those 2 guys are in America and I'm in Australia, so they're going to schedule in the middle of my night or something like that. And just have something in one space which everyone can come together and watch and be part of. However much you want. Maybe just watch a bit there, maybe watch the finals. Maybe you watch your favourite streamer play through a couple games. It's something that everyone can... It's easy to go, okay, I can sit down for a couple of hours, watch this, be a part of it all, know what's happening. BZL has been a real help with extra arm spot, being able to link brackets and schedules and all sorts.
Yeah, I mean, it must be said that you're very much the face of Blitz Pit, but there's a lot of people behind the scenes helping out, isn't there?
Yes, for sure. It definitely would not be at this stage without so many people helping out with casting and adminning and all the little bits and pieces.
Andy, you have hundreds of people on your streams. When you go to Blitz Pit, do they know what they're seeing? Is it?
Yeah, and I think it's also pretty popular on YouTube as well when it gets put up there. I was gutted that I missed the last one, because you did it when I was, the qualifiers were right before I was moving house, and then it was kind of on when I was moving house, and I didn't want to say, oh, sorry, I can't play, because I know how much time it puts in when someone says they're going to do something. You want the person to then be there to do the doing. So I was going to ask, I hear you're not doing another one. Any chance you can be persuaded to change your mind?
Well, I put it on a current hiatus was the word I used, as I mean, we're all kind of exploring this new tournament phase, aren't we? Like, what does Blood Bowl streaming tournaments look like? Is the majority going to move to like Blood Bowl 3 soon? I probably had a conversation about that.
If only I could bring, say, the person that runs Blitz Pit, the Fumble tournament director, a noted thinker about tournaments from the tabletop world, and maybe I don't know, a CCL admin together and get them talking. Perhaps with a couple of people that play a lot of tournaments. That we might be able to work that out, Nick. That might be part of my secret agenda for tonight.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't super sure where, like myself, where tournaments are going. I noticed there has been some phased interest on Bubble 2 tournaments recently. Not hugely, but there has been a bit, and I just want to put that on hold till we kind of see where things go and what happens, and who knows, maybe Blitz Pit does make a return someday.
Volcajo has been after me for 2 sessions to put this question to everybody, and I haven't. So I'm just going to put it to you, Nick, and then it's done. Is it because Blood Bowl 2 is now dead?
It must be dead, seeing only 300 people watching Andy's stream. Just before. It's obviously still in a live format. It's obviously still people want to watch streams of Blood Bowl 2. People want to engage in Blood Bowl 2. You spin in Blood Bowl 2, even during some of the deadest times of the 24-hour cycle when I play, and you can still get a game, right? So I have played actual games which have actually died, and then that's when the you can't find a game, or you can't engage, and you go on Twitch and there's nobody streaming, or 1 person to 0 people, sort of thing. That's when a game's actually dead. It's probably on the down for sure, but I wouldn't say dead.
Now, but it is. I mean, Core, you've notably, you told me privately and semi-publicly you're kind of ready to move on.
I would say that's pretty publicly. I'm done with Blood Bowl 2 when I'm out of my own playoff. With tabletop being a thing, I cannot be asked to play CRP anymore. It's just ludicrous now.
Yeah.
So I'd rather spend my time playing 2020 and tabletop and Fumble.
Well, I mean, I think there's no one here tonight that hasn't been at least tempted to dip a toe into Blood Bowl 2020, online and on tabletop. So I've actually managed to book a session for myself in December. I'm going to play some actual Blood Bowl with sort of dice and humans and things like that. It's going to be weird.
Well, why is that? Or why do you want to go back to Blood Bowl 2016 rules? Like, just is it that it's not, presumably it's not the head switch in terms of adapting the rules? It's just excitement of new toys.
It's what the people want, Mike. It's what the Twitcherati are after. But we did see a Blood Bowl 3 game, so we'll talk about. I don't know if anyone saw the stream on Friday. I want to throw that out. But there's a couple of people we haven't sort of said hello to. So I do want to circle around to Mike last, because next I wanted to come to my good friend Bazakastine and talk about the fact that we're having electronic Blood Bowl 2020 tournaments, aren't we? You did that.
We are, yes.
So for those that don't know, he's the director of tournaments. You're just about to hear from him on Fumble, the free Java-based website client on which some people play Blood Bowl. It is all just one game in various rule sets and various formats. That's kind of the point of this. So, Baza, tell us about the tournaments and how that's been going.
So, with once we moved over to 2020 rules, we opened up a Fumble minor pretty quickly, which we made it limited to 1350 TV to enter. And we had 3 16-team tournaments, 2 of which have finished. There was a really nice game just... I believe it was yesterday between Store, who, I mean, any of y'all who follow Blood Bowl 2 know Store quite well. He came to Fumble a while ago and very quickly made himself a name. And then Wintergreen, who's a North American coach. He's in a couple of leagues with me in a final. And Wintergreen ended up winning in overtime 2-1 in a very swingy game. But then we have one more final left, and Elyud is in the final with some Underworld that had hardly played before it started. And so, he might be able to take home a tournament win here pretty shortly. And then we've been trying to figure out how to get everything else involved. It's tough to figure out how to adjust from what made sense in CRP and Blood Bowl 2016 to Blood Bowl 2020. So right now we're just putting out things that track a little bit with what we have available.
Okay, so I mean, in Fumble there usually isn't tiering, is there, in the sort of competitions we're talking about in the competitive divisions? It's just bring whatever you can bring at that size. Is that right?
Yeah, so in the minors case, there's a TV limit. It used to be a tournament weight limit, but all Games Workshop changed names of all kinds of things. And as long as you fit under it to start, you can enter with whatever team you have. They can play as many games as you want in this case. And so, like, I mean, LU, his team had only played like 3 games before the tournament started, but his opponent had played, well, his opponent had only played 4, so that's not a good example. But I do know, I believe Wintergreen had played quite a bit on his. Yeah, he'd played like 16 games before the tournament started, but they were both under the 1350 team value cap.
So Blood Bowl is happening electronically with the 2020 rules. Anything starting to dominate? Anything leaping out at you as you were running them?
In the tournaments we're doing, not so much. I mean, the Royal Rookie Rumbles are in process. Those are for just like brand new teams. The 3 minors we have a Underworld Skaven final that hasn't been played. We had Orcs beat Nobles in a final, so Nobles showed out a little bit. And then we had Elven Union beat Norse in the other one. So didn't see any one team. I mean, if you look at it, it's more what the coaches are playing. We had Ogres in a semifinal, but Happy Grew was the coach.
Yes, for anyone that doesn't know Happy Grew, he might be able to lay claim to the finest Blood Bowl coach from North America currently playing on the Fumble client.
I'd
Certainly
say
in
he
the
does.
top 2 or 3.
So me and him are in a league together, and we've played 3 title games against each other, and he's beat me twice. So he has the edge over me as of now.
Okay, fantastic. Now, we've been talking about tournaments. I can't leave you out any longer, Mike. And I haven't. You've come on in, brilliant, which is brilliant. What do we do? How do we get this right? Teach us, oh man of statistics. What is going wrong with Blood Bowl 2020 and tournaments?
Is it going wrong?
I've just
I've lost him and he's frozen and quiet.
done. Which is that better? Is that better? Have I come back?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I don't think it is going wrong. I think we're just getting into it. Everyone's having a lovely time. They're just getting back to seeing each other in person and playing Blood Bowl, rolling dice, and they're enjoying it. I think the only thing that's going wrong is people trying to design rule sets like the Euro Bowl rule sets coming out. I don't envy those guys having to design a rule set in like not quite a vacuum, but trying to anticipate what it's going to be like in a year's time, and then in 6 months' time, people will know better. But
yeah, if I just for a second, I just want to flick to this. I don't know if you've got eyes on the stream, but if we go here and here, there we go. Haha. That was put into my Discord at about lunchtime today as the current state of what is going on with the Euro Bowl rules. And then within 2 hours, someone posted, no, that's been updated again. Underworld have moved from Tier 3 up to Tier 2. So is it right to say this is still very much a work in progress, that we're really not sure what's right and what's big and what's good and what's Tier 3 and what's Tier 2 and what's Tier 1?
Core disagrees, I think.
Don't worry, we are coming to a segment called All the Things That People Have Said That Are Wrong, starring Core. I have promised him, because there's some stuff from the last episode he wants to talk about that we all got wrong.
No. I think the main thing is there's no right or wrong. That's the whole thing. Blood Bowl rules in tournaments is evolving over time, and there was a lot of time when I started playing tournament, there was no rules that allowing stars at all. And then we had a long phase around one of the World Cups that suddenly allowed stars, where suddenly stars was a thing. Everything involves up and down and around, and we got new rule sets, so we'll have the same phase again.
Yeah, they had 13 years basically 13 years of like pretty much like post LRB4, the rules didn't really change. So And so people had 13 years to get to the position we were in, and there was serious competitive Blood Bowl tabletop being played. And you can't expect the same thing to happen in 13 months with not very much Blood Bowl.
So when I'm panicking, the mood is not falling. It's just I'm seeing it in a bucket. I'm seeing creative people responding to a new rule set, trying interesting things, and that's messing all the statistics up. Wood Elves aren't really a 48% race.
Ooh.
Andy.
Ooh. I bet they've fallen a bit, haven't they? Like they were top end tier 1, and now they are probably solidly in tier 2, I would say. But the one thing that your graph doesn't really take into account is, and this is my experience, is star players. If you take star players to a tabletop tournament, they hugely skew what you're going to take and what is great and what isn't. But that was the case 2 years ago, right? The World Cup, you couldn't take them, so people took things like Wood Elves, Dark Elves, Necro, Undead. If you'd have thrown star players in there and changed it to 1200, I bet you wouldn't have seen anywhere near as many Dark Elves or Wood Elves, for example. You'd have seen other stuff.
Yeah, and the problem we've got at the moment is we're not getting the tournaments without stars, and you're certainly not getting the tournaments without stars and without tiering. So we're not getting the control case really.
Now, before we came on, you were talking about your one-man mission to be the control.
I quite often go on one-man missions because I've played all the races. I don't know if I played more than core or not, but I'm on like 670 NAF games or something like that. So I look for reasons to take particular races to tournaments, and so I quite often take a race that not many people are going to take, especially if it means that all races are represented. So I'll end up playing Clan or Tomb Kings or something, whatever, High Elves, if they're not going to show up. But at the moment, I'm not taking stars, and I'm not taking mercs or any like toys like that, just because someone has to. Because if everyone takes stars, then you can't say that stars are broken if there's no control. Is my theory. Like Andy, CT was at your one, wasn't he? The one with Dark Elves, and stars were available, and he took it. He didn't take stars. So you can have a viable tournament team without stars in, and so some people need to take teams without stars to see what the meta is.
Okay, let's put Andy on the spot. I know him as a man that does like to be competitive. He's not going to take a build if he doesn't think it's going to at least give him a chance at those higher tables. Are you taking stars, and do you think you need them in the current meta?
I think some teams absolutely need them. Underworld probably are not viable from a tournament winning perspective without them. The problem is things like halflings. Suddenly they need to take you give them Morg and you give them Griff. That's not halflings. That's an incredibly killy, fouly Griff build that has a little bit of stunty inside it. That's an entirely different team than the one we play on Blood Bowl 2, for example.
I'd be surprised if this didn't cause a serious brain melt for stunty players, because the whole thing about being a stunty player is you don't care if you win or lose. And then as soon as you take Griff and Morg, you obviously do care and you want to win. And then if you start to lose, then maybe you care. And I don't know. The stunty psyche may be damaged irreparably. That's the serious problem with 2020.
It's always been my proper thesis that proper stunty coaches play goblins because they don't care if they win or lose. They're there to have fun. And halfling coaches are filth that only want wins, but they want an excuse for when they lose. But they want to be able to crow when they win, and halflings give them both of those. So that's your halfling coach in a nutshell. You lost a fucking flings. I shouldn't do the Australian accent. It's just random that I choose an Australian accent when I say that. Okay, so tournaments are going to be all right, are they? Colin, are they going to be all right? Are we going to have the rich variety of tournaments we used to have, and is everyone going to be enjoying themselves?
I don't see why we can't. I mean, it's Blood Bowl. Blood Bowl works itself well for tournaments and all kinds of different formats. I expect we're going to see them to continue. We're still in the process of figuring out how Fumble specifically is going to move fully into the new world with majors and everything, because we're waiting until we have the redrafting included. But I mean, we've been talking about NAF, and obviously it's, lots of debate about what's been going on with it, what's good, what's bad. We're going to see the same thing on Fumble, I'm sure.
And are we already seeing some key differences in the meta? Is there already a fracture between perpetual online play where, at the moment, vampires are not doing it, are they? And perhaps in tournaments where they're doing a lot better.
No, so from what I've been able to see, vampires have been like the worst race so far in the open play on Fumble.
I'm just going to throw up the graph I've got, I think, hopefully, that shows that.
Because I mean, I've looked at the graph quite a bit. I dived into it. My real life job is completely data analysis based.
What's the
And
black wiggly line there? The coloured bar graphs are presumably how they're doing.
Played.
Right.
It's games played. So like you see, like Black Orcs have had an absurd amount of games played compared to everything else right now, because they're new. And I do think that's one thing we're seeing, especially with the elves. Like the elves aren't doing as well as you'd expect, but I think we're seeing a lot of, when I look at race by race, a lot of the coaches whose names are well known have been trying things like Black Orcs or Nobles or the teams who've changed like Underworld. And so I think we just don't have. I don't think that data is going to track once we have thousands of games in 3 years, and top coaches are playing what they think's best, not what they think's new and interesting.
Well, this is my thesis. I want to come to Mike on that, Mr. Statistics. This has been my thesis for a while, that the reason goblins are at 30% is all the good goblin coaches are coaching snotlings. Are we just seeing data bumps?
The thing about goblins is that I put out a thing the other day, which I don't have to hand, but goblins' win percentage has actually increased between 2016 and 2020 in the things we've seen. So it's gone from like 0.3 to 0.32 or something ridiculous like that. So it has gone up. But the problem is that their peers, Halfling and Ogres, have rocketed. So they've become an outlier, not by getting worse, but by everyone else accelerating away from them.
Like me at school, they've stood still while everyone else has run off.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've spoken to some decent goblin coaches, and Ripper's a huge loss. Fungus is less a good loss. The Doom Diver nerf is bad. So there are things that have made goblins worse, but their win percentage hasn't statistically got worse as a result. It's just everyone else has got better. They haven't got the access to stars in as useful a way. Basically, is the theory.
And to bring the whole brains trust in, something that's just cropped up from Ducky in the chat, I can only agree. Where are all the elves gone? I mean, all right, I hated them, but I didn't want them to disappear. I wanted them to die under my boot, and they can't do that if they're not there. Where have all the elves gone?
Waiting to the star players to go.
I think they're just slightly less inspired pick at the moment, because as someone, if you're approaching these rules from a new, from a veteran sort of Blood Bowler standpoint, where you've played a bunch of games, you go in like, okay, new rules. What am I going to try? And elves, what's changed about elves? Worse passing. Okay, that's not inspiring me to pick it. You've nerfed leap. You're not rolling some random setups. The only thing that really appeals maybe to elf play is that, I can take guard everywhere now, which maybe eventually, when people kind of get down to the brass tacks of things, like of what's strong, what's not, maybe elves are strong in like an open play sort of thing, is that you eventually blodge guard everyone, and then you're good to go. And then in tournaments, I can't speak for it because I haven't played in too many NEF style tournaments, but stars seem to be the talk of the town. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think part of it is, as I mentioned earlier, the changes for elves are not as blatant, right? Like if you're trying to try something new, you want to play something new. With elves, the jump thing does matter, but it's not something that jumps out at you. The multiple reroll per turn can help elves, maybe. But I'm just saying, looking at Fumble, there's a lot of really good elf coaches I've seen, and it's like, okay, they're playing Skaven, they're playing Underworld, they're playing Black Orcs, they're playing things because these things are new, and if I'm playing Dark Elves right now, I'm playing Dark Elves the exact same way I'd always play Dark Elves.
Let's ask Mr. Dark Elf. Andy, is that true?
Oh, see, I sort of recoil a little bit there. I'm not sure about that because if you put Dark Elves in this rule set and trying to transport them into a Blood Bowl 2 format, so imagine we've got the new rules but in online play, PC. I think you would see people that take block, dodge, guard, and guard spam elves are an absolute nightmare. I don't know whether you're gonna see, I don't know if you're gonna see people think that elves are as bad once they've come up against 7 blodge dark elves with guard. That's an entirely different proposition. And some mighty blow sprinkled in there as well, right?
Yeah.
No, I agree with you, Andy. I'm just saying that the changes there they're not as, hey, I want to try something new to somebody right now. So the early time we're not seeing the Dark Elves played. I mean, Dark Elves I had circled as, hey, this is a team I want to play a ton, but not something I want to try immediately because I'm curious, okay, how does this team play? How does this team play? I know how I think Dark Elves play.
Look, I'm very aware that Core is desperately trying to tell us all that we're wrong, so I am going to have to let him in a minute. My thesis is that there are exciting changes, but they're under the bonnet. That actually, when the real elf players work out, I can build this elf team exactly as I want. I don't have to wait for a double. I can go, that's the guy that is going to get to the secondary, and so I'm planning on that, and I need to feed him the touchdowns to do it. I can't do it with passes, but I can hand off. Those guys, they're skilled now. I don't need much more on them. I think once that ability to put in things like defensive and guard as exactly where you want on a team, if it's in a format like CCL or like whatever the competitive division becomes on Fumble, with the tournaments probably coming at the end of those seasons, I think that ability to sculpt isn't that best of all on elves?
Where you can actually score on the player.
Come on then, Core. How have we all been wrong, both last time and this time? Let's start with rat ogres being better than trolls.
I really don't care about that one. But of course it does, because elves you can actually score with the players you want to score with. It's gonna be it's gonna be fine. Dark elf builds, like if the new meta is 1-1-5, Dark elves build perfectly at 1-1-5 for tournaments. Wood elf not so, is a bit more a struggle, but Dark elf builds perfectly. It's just you cannot fit star players in. So even like I'm known for playing elves, but you cannot fit star players in on elves, basically. Multiple rerolls is good for elves as well. That's plenty of things that's good for elves. Leap, and if you don't like to leap every turn, leap nerf is fine. It had to happen. So that's the thing. And dark elves you only passing when you're in trouble anyway. So who fucking cares?
That's always been true, isn't it? The Dark Elves are the least passing of the elves.
And fouling Elven Union is going to be absolutely brutal.
Yes.
The Friends already did it, and now they actually have a good team to do it with.
Do we all agree that there's 6 of us here, that with just about any Blood Bowl 2020 team, if it's got access to agility, someone should be taking Sneaky Git?
Yes.
Yes.
It's one of the new fun ones, isn't it? And it's a change that everyone likes. No one's criticizing it, are they? It's people like fouling.
Yeah, it's not even just that. I think it was a very smart way to make that skill viable. It focused on not the negative from fouling of you getting removed, which it already covered somewhat, but that it impacts your positioning. And so, I'm known on Fumble as a lizard coach, and I can tell you I will be taking Sneaky Git on Skinks now when I never, ever did before, just because it allows me to continue to hold my position when need be.
Yeah, so it's not only the half the number of sendings off, and that's if it actually works and does anything at all, but it's that ability to drop the cheeky foul and move on afterwards and not be wedded to a position you might not have wanted the player in, isn't it?
Do you think they were inspired by Blood Bowl 2's bug where you could foul as you scored a touchdown?
I'd like to think so.
With the beautiful accident of sprue-based design for Underworld, who knows? And who cares how these things come into our Blood Bowl life? If they're good, I celebrate them.
Yeah, if anyone really wants to see how good the Dirty Player Sneaky could be, I believe it's a coach called Fox. I think he's a French NAF coach. who's been playing Black Orcs on Fumble and absolutely was just ruining people with his dirty player sneaky get goblin. It's been I've watched a handful of his games, and it's just been really impressive what you can do with him if you can really position well with that kind of player.
Yeah, I've been playing the first time with humans who sneaky get dirty player, and the first game after the last two games, I must admit, when you're first figuring out a bit how to play with it, it's absolutely a nightmare for people to play against.
Well, I guess we better get used to it. Is sneaky get and dirty player the piling on of the Blood Bowl 2020 rule set? Are we going to have endlessly long complaint threads about how, oh no, they fouled me into oblivion?
Hopefully, maybe. It's definitely helpful. Guard is also helping existing fouls on top of that.
Yeah, I didn't guess a buff to guard was coming. Am I the only one a bit shocked by that?
Buff to fouling.
I mean, it makes sense, like in a world, but yeah, buffing guard, yeah, probably a little questionable.
Well, they buffed Mighty Blow to +2, so why not buff guard as well?
Well, yeah, I mean, it remains to be seen how widespread that gets to be. I did notice in the Euro Bowl rules, the ones I showed earlier, and I'll try and link them both on the YouTube and the podcast so that those are available at the click. I did notice that whilst they've costed stars in, basically you have to buy the star, but also you give up 3 skills or 2 skills depending on your exact race. That for Morg and Deeproot, the +2 DPs, they've doubled that cost. Are we saying that those two are the really outstanding stars, and that it's that MB +2 that's doing it?
Yes.
Yes, it's bad.
It's very bad. I played Amazons with Morg and would have comfortably swept all 5 games, other than Morg rolling 2 trip skulls in the same half and failing Loner. And I pitch cleared 3 out of the 5 opponents. So Morg's just ridiculous. He should not be allowed at competitive tabletop tournaments, in my mind. He's that broken.
Mike, is there enough control for us to draw these sorts of conclusions? Is he that broken?
No, you can do it anecdotally though, can't you? It's just, it is what it is. But when you've seen it in action, then you know. But I don't. But it would be nice to have perfect knowledge, wouldn't it, of all the rosters that people have taken. But when you see, 4 out of the top 5 being more teams, then fairly easy to draw those conclusions, isn't it?
Are we adding Hack Phlegm to the list of ones that we think might be a bit broken, or is that just that Underworld are in general very strong, and add a good star, they're even stronger?
He's just,
too good for the price?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe a bit. But I think it's more problem on Chaos Wolf than he is on.
I think a lot of the problem is the access some stars have. I mean, Hackflim was always good, but you never really I've used him a lot with rats in open play or league play, but he never got talked about that much. But then all of a sudden you're Underworld and, as he said, Chaos Dwarves and all these other teams get Hackflim, and it's like he's a gutter runner with all kinds of extra to it. On a team that just, you give them someone who can do that, it changes the way the game's played entirely.
I just noticed someone in the chat.
Tournament. Yeah, you might be saying the same thing. Are you seeing in Fumble tournament that people are lowering their TV min-maxing and then including a star?
We're also seeing people also use their treasury and get okay, I get a wizard, you get 3 prayers, let's go. Which, very fair. But Store is somebody who's been very, very dipping into his treasury. But it's early. I mean, Fumble tournaments, because they're weekly and because we have to have teams ready for them, we have not been able to run enough that aren't starting TV to really say a ton. But that's definitely where, if I'm looking at the early games, lots of people are using treasury and trying to stay lean. I mean, LU made it to the final because he was lower TW for a part of it, and he's also an incredibly good coach.
So already people are trying to gain every advantage out of the rule set they possibly can. That was unforeseeable, wasn't it?
I mean, I'm pretty sure before GW had mentioned anything, we were all already looking at the rule set and saying what we could take advantage of.
Yeah, yes, I would say so. Someone was talking in the chat about a team of snotlings staying low enough in their league that they went 6-0, hiring Morg and I think it was Hackflem every single game. If you were advising someone in your local area setting up a tabletop league, would you be saying leave the stars out?
No, definitely not. I'm facing. As I said, I said before the stream started, we've just finished our first 2020 season, and in the playoffs, my fairly developed Necro are facing some snotlings, and I fully expect Morgan Hackblem to be taken to the pitch. But I beat them in the regular season. I think they had Morgan Hackblem at that stage as well, and so it's not unbeatable, and my team survived. Morg didn't do a huge amount for some reason, maybe dice, but so I just in a tabletop league, it's mostly fun. Although I have had some people, in fact, say facing Morg is not fun, and that's the big alarm bell for me. People have said facing the new vampires is not fun. People have said facing Morg is not fun. And if a game becomes not fun for one of the participants, like who would spam guard on loads of dwarves, things like that, then that's alarm bells.
I have no idea what you mean. Core, same question. Would you advise your local tabletop man, leave the mercs out, leave the stars out, it'll all be good?
Probably actually mercs, just because it'll take some people we have will take more than the game to figure out what to do with the mercs first, because they're that insanely complicated as well. So yeah, merc stuff is fine, but because most players in leagues play, like I played lower tiers in league for the same my local leagues for the same reason, and do stuff. People adapt around most people adapt around trying to make the leagues fun for everyone anyway, because otherwise it's a lot of time looking at your friends if it's not fun.
Is that, I am hearing some vague murmurings of discontent, and is that what you feel it all boils down to? The top row, I haven't spoken to Andy, Colin or Nick for a while. How are you feeling about the 2020 rules, and are the people that are moaning just because they liked the fact they knew the old rules well and were good at them? Is it fear of change?
I mean, I always think that fear of change is a big part of it, right? Like, this was one of the things when the rules were being announced before we moved over. Some of the things we were complaining about was, like, for instance, you being able to cage break on a 3+ with a War Dancer before, and now it's a 4+, and now you can't do it ever. It's like, if I'd never played the game before and you told me I could break someone's cage on a 4+, especially with multiple rerolls per turn, I'm like, that's pretty good. It just seems bad in comparison. Same with the Claw Mighty Blow stack, right? Like, it's still good. It only doesn't seem as good because we've been playing the game for however long we've been playing. And I'm still too early. I haven't played enough Blood Bowl 2020 rules. I will say the games I have played, it seems Quad Skulls comes up more, which isn't fun. But besides that, the rules seem... I'm curious to see where they're going to go. I'm not going to say they're better, but I'm not going to say they're worse. I think you're going to need to give me a couple hundred games before I have any idea whatsoever.
Okay. Andy, how are you feeling about the 2020 rules? You've dipped a toe, haven't you?
I've played a tournament, and I've played on Fumble. I think there are some things that probably need a little bit more consideration. Things like star players for tournaments, I think you should probably be maxed out at 1. That might change and fix things like, well, the flings and the underworld from being broken. I'm a bit worried about Mighty Blow +2, and I think it detracts from people wanting to take Armor 7 teams. That is also something that I noticed.
Right.
But I think overall the rule set looks interesting. I'm so delighted that piling on's gone. So long as they can put redrafting into Blood Bowl 3, then we'll have a ladder system that might work, or a private league system that will work. but redraft's got to go in.
I absolutely want to come to Blood Bowl 3, and we'll talk a little bit about that stream right next. But let's throw that around too. Nick, how are you feeling about Blood Bowl 2020? Is it good vibes, bad vibes?
I think generally good vibes. It's definitely been fun testing out the new rules. I've been playing it entirely on Fumble. It's been a good time trying out the new teams, trying out the new team building. There's two sort of big things which I'm like, maybe in the distance this could be a problem, right? Is one, if stars / inducements end up being too powerful that in the end of like development means that the people who are trying to max out their win percentage for tournaments decide, well, the best thing I can do for my team is to not develop the team, right? If it's like, well, if I just get Morg every game or I get this star player every game, the best is to not to play.
So you're talking in online formats? Yeah.
Oh, in the online formats, yes. So for development. So if that ends up to be the case, right, that just disencourages playing Blood Bowl, right? It's like, well, I played 3 games, got Blodge on that one guy I wanted Blodge on. I got Mighty Blow on that one guy I got, Mighty Blow on, and now my team's tournament ready, right? It takes away a bit of the fun of like, oh, I play this team for 10 games, 15 games. I build up a cool team with lots of fun skills. Not taking skills is not a very fun mechanic, right, for people. It's like, oh, well, sometimes it's optimal, like, well, maybe I don't want to take a lot of skills from my Goblin on my team here, right? I want to put it on my Orc Blitzers or whatever. But if it's like, overall, I don't want to put TV on anyone apart from maybe one Blodger here to carry the ball, and then we go away. And then we put lots of star players in, and that's a better tournament team. The second one is if it ends up being for development play, again, that you build the exact same way every time, right? So I've been playing a lot of Dark Elves. I put Blodge Guard on everyone, and I can't see myself deviating from that ever.
And now that you can't get a random skill that you suddenly go, oh, let's try this. Now that you can plan every single skill on every elf, there's nothing's going to help you change your mind, is it?
Yeah, I'm not going to roll a stats like I'm not going to roll a level up and go, oh, I got a double here. I guess I want to build this guy into a Blodge Guard or a Mighty Blow, or I rolled a plus agility here. Let's get this guy to be a sucker or a retriever or something crazy. It's always going to be like, I have this plan for this team, and over maybe in a year or two from now, we'll see everyone plays every team more or less the same way if they're trying to maximize their... Like, every team looks the same for people who are trying to maximize their win percentage with that team, sort of thing.
Limited perhaps by how much you can grind. Because if you can really, really grind to get 3 or 4 randoms that you like as the start of that team, and then build what you want on top of it, that could end up quite frightening. You look perturbed by this grim future, Mike. Are you not agreeing?
I was just saying I was thinking it's going to broaden the divide, I think, between the different approaches that people have to Blood Bowl. So I'm seeing a lot of stuff on Fumble and a lot of stuff on tabletop as well. People are taking random skills and they're saying, woo, like I took 3 random skills on my zombie lineman and he's got block, tackle and strip ball. And that's quite nice. I quite like that. That's fun. But I've got another one who's got shadowing and that's less good. And if people on tabletop, you'll get that because people probably like tabletop leagues. Lots of people don't take them hugely seriously. It's about having a beer and chatting, and some people approach online play that way as well. And then you get the people who don't, and similar for tournaments in a way, I suppose, is that you'll get people who turn up for a laugh, and you get super bills. But that's always been the way.
Andy, did you just try and raise your hand to people that just turn up to have a laugh? Or were you wanting to say something? Because you can't be thinking that's you.
No, I'm well aware it's not me. The one thing I think that is worrisome about the level ups, though, is the stats. So there's 2 problems with them a little bit. One is strength is now 80k, and getting a random stat is very unlikely. You're not going to take it on almost all players. I mean, maybe one answer where you're happy with all three, a wolf, a witch elf. But there's not loads of players. So the necro example that Nick was using, that there is a very good chance that you might find the way to build necro if you want a 70% win rate is this. It just is. Dodge on both flesh. Blight. It just will be, and that does worry me in the far future.
Core, I've got smart people telling me two different things, that there's either going to be more randomness and more fun, and that whilst everyone is going to basically have NAF teams, that's going to be cut back to that, there's going to be diversity because of humans, and yet everyone else is saying, no, that's madness, we're all going to build the same teams. Which is it, my friend? Which is right?
For once, there is nothing, because you will have both. You will have both people. You have the people that will find the maximum output for your skills, and you'll have a lot of people that just go with random skills. You had plenty leagues already that was doing random skills before. Now they can do it officially as well. It's how it is.
Yeah, Larissa in the chat is saying that almost everyone in his league is doing the random skills. Is that extra thing of, because you're there and there's a beer in your hand and everyone's rolling randoms and having a laugh, it must be so hard to not roll your dice and see if you get lucky, mustn't it?
I mean, if you look at Fumble, right? Everyone, right, when Blood Bowl 2020 came, was like, we're just rolling randoms on everything. I mean, you saw all kinds of crazy. Same thing in the Blood Bowl 2020 league we put. People are very interested in the idea of randoms right now. It's fun. It gets you skills faster. You get to try new stuff faster. And I mean, who hasn't ever thought all I ever wanted was a shadowing zombie? But overall, I think that's a huge part of it. It's going to be hard to tell how much it is part of the normal meta until people get past I can click this button and see what happens, or I can roll these dice, and there's excitement there.
Yeah, the lovely Candlejack in the chat, who will be up here on one of these screens one of these days, he absolutely agreeing, saying that give it 6 months, there'll be hardly any randoms rolled. It's the fun of the new. Davo's head like the Churchill dog. You agree, sir?
I absolutely do, yeah.
Online play probably, but leagues and tabletop league, those be plenty.
But then Strider immediately disagreeing, because if you want to min-max your team, then you take randoms and you just churn them until you get the cheapest bang for your buck.
Yeah, I mean, that's a different thing though, right? Because I think that's very clearly using the meta, and because you can't churn randoms in a league. And if we say, okay, these rules are made for league play, where you're stuck with a team, I mean, yes, we're going to take advantage of the rules in an open play, just like, I mean, Davo, and we can all say that in Blood Bowl 2, like, you're going to start, people have no problem starting a bunch of teams until they get one that breaks, right, to qualify for Chalice. And that's basically what churning for randoms is going to be now. Right.
So, yeah, unless somebody in charge like you puts a limit on it, people will play 3 or 4 games with their favourite race, roll 3 or 4 randoms, and if they get good ones, that team continues, and if they don't, it's in the bin and they try again.
Yeah, which, I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, if you hit all randoms, it helps a little bit. I'm not sure. I still question how valuable they are compared to other things. I mean, I think on some player types, they're very valuable. But I do think people are overstating the value, just because I think having some, like, I would often pay 10K more to know that I'm not wasting this SPP on shadowing and then cutting the player and replacing it.
Yes, I did have a shadowing frenzy goblin very briefly. I decided he didn't have a future. Okay, I do want to move on to a couple of other things. Anyone want to talk anything else just about a general impression of Blood Bowl 2020? Because I do want to go on to Blood Bowl 3 for a second. I don't know if that leaves you in the dark on this, Mike, but Blood Bowl 3 came out. There was an open beta. It didn't go very well. Lots of people didn't like the visuals.
I played that, yeah.
Yeah, it hurt people's eyes. It wasn't smooth, intuitive to play. You didn't feel you were getting the response or the feedback from your players when you did things. It just, lots of people didn't like it for lots of reasons. On Friday just gone, we did have a new stream of Blood Bowl 3. Anyone here see it? Anyone want to come in with opinions on it? Let's be topical.
Yeah, I saw it and I thought that it went from a sort of a 25% finish game to a 50% finish game. So that's something I throw in straight away. It's by no means done, but it's a hell of a lot better than it was. But where was the bar in the first place?
Okay, yeah. I mean, I tend to agree. I thought it was a step forwards when a leap forwards was needed. But I do think there's been some work there. Anyone else?
Yep.
I guess the whole Blood Bowl 3 stuff hasn't been super, like, inspiring, right? There was a lot of... The beta exactly wasn't the most awesome impression on the community, which some betas, you can have on communities. I've seen different betas be, announced or released, and people get very excited over a game or an expansion or something of the sort. So there's a bit of sort of they've kind of got to build up a bit of faith in the community from after that, and I think I'm along Andy that it was a slight step forward. Yeah.
Cool. Were you excited? Were you, hooray, it's coming?
Let's be honest, I freaking didn't waste my time watching it. So no, I'm not particularly excited.
Is it going to tempt you, Mike? Is your money coming out?
I like Fumble. my problem with BB2 and Swatline in general has been the less ability to multitask. I tend to multitask, and I find that BB2 needs more of my attention, as a needy child than Fumble does. But yeah, no, I will absolutely. I'll give BB3 a go, and maybe I will get addicted and start doing everything on there. But it would need to be pretty slick for that to happen, I think.
Yeah.
But absolutely, it has its place. People are ridiculously more keen to watch that than they are to watch Fumble. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I don't know why, but that's still the case. I can, if I switch from the Fumble client to the Blood Bowl 2 client, I instantly at least double the number of people on the stream.
Yeah. I mean, that doesn't surprise me. I mean, I learned the game on Blood Bowl 1, right? And then I moved to Fumble. I never would have saw Fumble and been like, this is a game I need to play. But, so, I mean, the computer game has its place. I've enjoyed my time on Blood Bowl 2 lately as well. I mean, there's, lots of really good coaches I would never played otherwise. And Nick's Blitz Pit's a big part that actually got me involved in it. But it's, Fumble is great if you like Fumble. And I do, obviously, but I completely understand why people who aren't used to it don't necessarily gravitate to it in the same way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same. I learned my Blood Bowl on Fumble, so it's always got that place in my heart. But I mean, the whole point of One World, One Blood Bowl is I don't want people in their cliques. I want to shake that up and say to people, there's a lot of Blood Bowl out there, and it's all Blood Bowl.
I mean,
don't be so prissy about it, basically.
Yeah, it's great. I don't know if I've told you this, but the thing is, when I moved from Blood Bowl 1 to Fumble, what made me completely move over to Fumble was the tournament scene, which you were running at the time, and how unique that was in comparison, and the community it had. And one thing I noticed going back and seeing Blood Bowl 2 after Reset Development, when I was sick actually, and he had me, and I watched some of Dio streams. I got involved, and then I saw Blitz Pit, blah blah blah. Is how much the community had grown and how much there was things to do. And I'm sure, I mean, obviously tabletop's the same way. It's a great community in its own. I've never played a tabletop game in my life. I'm playing in January. So if any of you got any advice, let me know. But there's a lot of different ways to play, and they're all very good.
Really, more often than you expect, people try and sneak a 12th player onto the field. So much so they've now written it into the rule book because it happens so often.
I will say, you will forget to roll armor rolls. And depending on how nice your opponent is, they might remind you to roll armor rolls. They probably will, but otherwise you're not going to hurt any players because you'll forget to roll armor rolls.
Write the weather down. I always forget what blooming weather it is, and my opponents never do. So I'm always having to do the 3+, and I'm always forgetting to make them do that.
Yeah, luckily I know the guy whose tournament it is, so
Well, then there's a good chance you'll get a good draw, isn't there?
Well, yeah. I mean, he's been trying to talk me into going for a little bit. Been waiting for a team. Wog painted me some humans. I'm going to take, I think, but.
Now, Dizzy Bess has asked a question. I wasn't smart enough to be reading chat as she asked it about 38 times, so I am going to circle back to it. It came up specifically when we were talking about the new skill-up system, which some of us have some concerns over as to, is it actually as fun? Randoms definitely are, but is it as fun as suddenly seeing you've got a double when you didn't expect it and having to replan how the whole team's going to develop? Dizzy's coming from a different aspect. How newer player friendly is it? And we talked about this on the last couple of episodes too. Is this new rule set pretty unfriendly to newer players?
At least you can read the rule set from start to end instead of having to jump back and forth 50 times trying to actually read the rules.
I mean, I'll sign that the book is quite good to read through, isn't it? It makes sense. It's in a logical order. I would say they've written the rules well, but it isn't in me to say that about Games Workshop and rules.
I don't think it could be less friendly. I mean, I think it's probably more friendly than it was because, yes, like the issue is, do you pick the right skill? But when I was learning the game, I was like, I ain't choosing skills. I'm just going to look up what to take. And now it's like, okay, if I'm playing elves and I ask somebody, hey, what do you take as elves? Oh, you take dodge. And now I just spend the SPP on it. I don't even have to worry about, I rolled plus MA. I don't have to be like, hey, do I take plus AV? And then make that mistake because I don't know. It's, hey, if I'm going to follow like what someone does, I can follow it much easier.
Okay.
I think that's a good thing if you're like implanted in some sort of community, or you watch a streamer or something like that, and you can say, "Oh, I'm a bit new to the game. I'm watching Andy's stream. Andy's taking these skills. I'll take these skills," and you'll probably be successful, right? But if you're coming from like a purely like an outsider new to the game, there's just kind of more options for you to go wrong, right?
Yeah, to watch a streamer and take Mighty Blow first on all of your orcs, for example.
Yeah, yeah, something like that. Or Frenzy first, there's lots of options, isn't there?
Nick, you're speaking like someone who never took plus AV on a gutter runner because he didn't know better. Which is who I am.
Exactly. When I was new to the game, I wasn't connected to any streamer community or big league. I played on Blood Bowl 1. I just kind of played some games, so I'm pretty sure I've had my share of plus AV Dark Elf Assassins and such. I think
the biggest problem
if you're disconnected from things, there's more options for you to go wrong with randoms, and you can pick anything,
Yeah, I mean, some people are actually going to take passing skills, for example. Can you imagine?
Like there's this whole tree which is a trap which no one should touch at all. How does that come across as like a?
Mike, you're being too polite. Right? I know you want to come in. Come on in on this. Tell us what.
I think that no. I think the big problem with the new box for new players was that it had Black Orcs and Imperial in it. Imperial, both of which were pretty terrible. Like since time immemorial, it's come with humans and orcs with basic skills that you need to learn to play the game and have a reasonable chance of success. And now you've got Black Orcs who are incredibly slow, Nobility who are incredibly fragile. We had a guy fairly new who played Nobility in our league and got fairly trounced. Partly because he was new, but also partly because he was playing Nobility, who are pretty terrible. And I think you did want to talk about this, but I just think that was an error of sorts.
No, that I'll buy a lot more. Is you'd assume the teams that come in the box, if you never played before, are going to be like at least competent. Yeah. And like I don't think either team's as necessarily bad, but I do think they both take a lot of knowledge of the game to play at even a 50% level.
Andy, what do you think? Is the new rule set new player friendly, and particularly with regard to things like the skilling up system? Are we helping people come to the game we love?
Yeah, I think so. But I just want to echo what people said there, that it should have been orcs and humans in the box. Absolutely. Or corn. Like, why can't we put, like, if you're going to do something crazy, go and put corn in there and really mess with people's heads.
Yeah, I mean, I still recommend both orcs and humans as just good ways to learn Blood Bowl, because they're not they're not going to get loads of wins, but they're going to teach you the things you need to know when you're starting out. And
Yeah,
Orcs
the best they
particularly,
do-
I've always said they survive, which means they gain skills, and that people like that. They're not going to win games, but they will at least gain skills, and that's something for them to, be happy about.
Yeah, picking up
Yeah.
the Blood Bowl 16 box and the Blood Bowl 20 rulebook would be a good way of getting into the game if you could find a version on eBay.
Yeah, as someone who's played a lot, I found the new box really interesting because it's new stuff. But if you're someone coming in new, I do not think it's a good entry point by any means.
Yeah, I mean, from the minute I saw it, I thought this is a box to sell to people that have already got Blood Bowl rules then. Because this is an add-on box, isn't it? It's 2 new teams, it's a new set of rules, but it doesn't invalidate what you bought 4 years ago. You've still got the humans and the black and the orcs that came in that box. So it didn't feel like an entry point at all. It felt like like part 2. Like the expansion pack,
you will.
Yeah.
Well, that's been their whole branding is season 2, hasn't it? That's what they've tabletops all gone with, haven't they?
Now that was, you've already naturally gone where I wanted to go next. But did everyone feel they had a chance to come in on that call?
Yeah, it's fine. Nobility, you're right with it, but it's definitely, I think they've done a lot to make it more clear and straightforward for new people.
Yeah, I mean, we were told that was why all the stats changed round, is because it's more like other games.
And the skill, to be fair, the random skill up, new players playing with new people will just do, which what's the whole, it's the Beyond Predators game, so it's about having fun. It's just idiots like us that made something serious out of it.
So there you are, Dizzy.
never
There's your
meant to
answer. These 6 old bearded sweats that are, always trying to be at the business end of tournaments say, no, it's fine for new players. They'll be fine.
Hey, I won't be old for another 2 months. 2 months until I'm old, and then you can include me.
It will be better. I didn't say it's better than it was before, where the rule set was. I've tried to teach somebody Blood Bowl with using the rulebook as the tool before. That was absolutely horrendous experience.
Yeah, I use it to roll dice on while I explain the rules, because there's nothing in there that would help them. Except the new one, I think, is slightly better.
But now you can actually start reading, and it actually comes in an order of play instead of in a random mix of nip-nap and back and forth.
Now, Nick, I noticed your mouth was moving, and I waited the 3 minutes, and no sound came. So,
Oh, sorry. I had myself muted. I was saying, I probably won't be bearded forever. I got one of the old bearded comment came out. I'll get old, but this is probably about as much facial hair as I'm getting.
well, I do apologise for including you with us. I feel your beard is very much a symbolic one. Then there's a beard upon your soul. So where I wanted to go next was, you've gone there already, just naturally, and I should be pleased, but I'm not. I'm furious. Bobs and knobs, are they absolutely terrible, or are they even worse than that?
No, they're perfectly reasonable.
Are they
I
though?
think. Yes, and I say this as somebody who's played like 2 games with him. No, it's Black Orcs. So Games Workshop clearly has no interest in making a team that's good. They don't want to screw up and make a team too good. Black Orcs, I think, fit very well in a team that's not very good but can be fun and has a role and you can win with.
Okay.
Nobles, I don't know. I think they're better than they are, and I'm going to lose a lot of games until I accept the fact that they're not very good.
Let's have another opinion. Cool. Are Bobs and Knobs just terrible, or are they worse than that?
I think Bobs are hard to play because they're damn slow. It's just a slow lizard team. But instead of having to go to Stundy and you want to play something competitive but still hard, you can go playing Bobs. Nobility actually, I think, is not. We're talking again Resurrection tournament frame. I think Nobility is absolutely fine because they have so many starting skills. They're absolutely actually in league as well.
Okay.
Having Nobility, just a different team. It's not
Nick,
a beginner team.
Have you dipped your toe in them, Nick? Are you?
I very little. I have watched a fair few games of Bobs. I've got on Fumble. I've got some friends who've played a lot of Bobs, which that's one of the great things about Fumble, how easy it is to pop in and watch our friends play a game, and the Bobs, they do look like they get exposed. Like, the weakness of lizards is kind of when the Saurus get chipped and then you're playing down strength, but you got a bit of movement to back it up, right? So like, if you do get some Saurus chip, you've got the movement game, and if you play your spacing right, you're okay. And Bobs obviously feel a bit bad down men's, even with a very competent coach at the helm, from what I've seen. But solid enough. I mean, they're not, that I don't think you're ever going to put them in a tier 1 at a tournament, but they're fine, right? They're fine. They've got a bunch of strength 4 guys who can throw blocks, right? And as long as you got that, and you've got more than 3 movement, you'll probably be able to play a game, right?
Mike, are you agreeing that they're all right, or are they just awful?
They're not. Yeah, you're right about not being a beginner team, basically. Whereas I always found Bretonians were okay, but obviously losing the 2 blitzers is not compensated by gaining the ogre.
Yeah, hang on. We do have Jimmy Fantastic in chat. He's just going to need to calm down for a minute about you saying that Bretonians are okay. Despite having on the Blood Bowl 2 client something like a 93% win rate with them, he describes them as utter trash, not fit to be coached, and that knobs are worse.
Bretonians are great. Knobs are worse. But the rest, I mean, that's just Jimmy's own issues.
Knobs are worse than Bretonians? Are we all agreeing on that?
Well, losing 2 blitzers.
The movement was one of their highlights, right? That they had a couple movement 7 guys who could keep up with the elves, who could outpace the bash.
But they get ogre.
So I'm relatively new to learning Bretonians. I've been playing them in a league on Fumble for a while. And I actually just won it, and it's like I love them. I love the way they play at 1600 TV. But what the hell do throwers do?
They have a running pass.
I mean, which I think is awesome, except for the fact that I think it's really cool skill until you have to use it, and you're like, why do I have this instead of something reasonable?
You've not found a lot of uses for it yet, then? Haven't ever wanted to pass and move those 3 extra spaces afterwards?
I mean, I've purposely done so. I played a decent amount of Nobles. I only have a couple in Fumble, but when the Blood Bowl 3 beta came out, that's like all I was playing. I beat Nick. I made him quit because he couldn't handle the interface. So I won.
Yes, I remember that now. I got absolutely smashed, and I spent about all my time bank trying to jump over a player. I couldn't figure out how to do it.
But I want to see. I do think the starting stand firm's interesting. I don't know. I mean, that was always the second skill for me. Wrestle guard, then you take guard, take stand firm, and starting wrestle stand firm I think is very interesting. I do wish they had not. I mean, I don't understand why it's down to 2 and lost Dauntless. It's a bit much for me.
Andy, knobs or bobs?
Bobs. Knobs are rubbish. They just are. I think as Cara says, I think with the tournament build they'll be fine, but perpetually they're just gonna be no. Like there's so many better choices if you want to go and win a tournament. Yeah, down in 73rd place, let's pick them up, just slightly above goblins.
You don't think grab and brawler and the ability to just use guard, grab people right into a nest of black orcs and goblins and kick them in the face? That's not going to be.
It took PW a 3rd place at Waterball with Morg Black Orcs and just fouling people, grabbing people in and
hang on. You did say Morg Black Orcs and fouling people. Didn't we cover Morg a bit earlier in being quite good?
Yeah. So they managed to take a trash team and push them 3rd. Well done, Morg. Have we had the star player book for them yet? The Spike for Black Orcs. So will there potentially be? Here's your baseline. I know it's not great. Sorry about that. But what about here's a book? Let's make him a bit better. Do you think that could be a thing?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of inducements there, flavour specifically, maybe. I mean, they do already get access to the cheap bribes, but that doesn't seem to be quite cutting it, does it?
What do they need? Like, what do you guys think they need?
I mean, they're slow. Hey, they're slow. Something a little faster, right?
A fast star player?
Yeah, maybe a couple of goblins that will move 8, like
I
skinks.
don't know that Blackworks did anything. I mean, PC, do you still? I mean, what are they doing there? They're 45% over a ton of games. I think they're doing exactly what people think they need to do. I don't understand the. Well, I do understand the lizard comparison. I'm just going to tell you, everyone who compares them to lizards is wrong.
Now that's spoken as what some people would call a lizard main. So
Yeah,
they don't get you blood flowing.
No, I mean, I do plan on playing them. I've not got to play much Blood Bowl 2020 yet, but I just seeing them, they don't have the ability to flip back and forth on the field like lizards do. They look a lot like Kimry to me in that they're fragile, but you got to get up into somebody's grill. You've got to create fouls. You've got to take every square you can and move down the pitch. I get why they look like lizards, but I don't think thinking of them as lizards is the way to play that team.
So you advocating sort of a Khemri play style, but sort of with that Norse idea of need to get in the face and up numbers early and stay up.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to take every advantage you can. I mean, Lizard's whole thing is if you remove some of my guys, I can just outpace you. Like, it's fine.
Okay, I'll take a
You
dissenting
can't do
voice
that
if
with
there
it.
is one amongst the crowd. Okay, I'm going to go where Andy went then. We've already heard him say that he would rather not have knobs. He would rather have bobs. Same question. You tell me what format you're deciding in. It can be, for NAF. It can be for a league. It can be online. What are you taking? Are you taking knobs or are you taking bobs? Car.
If you're playing tournament, I'm probably taking bobs and trying to follow the heaven with you.
Okay, so you're going to a NAF tournament and you're taking Black Orcs.
And we're going to, with star players, and we're going to take the Black Goblin and we're going to foul twice per turn.
Notice how he's got to come up with a plan as to how he's going to not just go to the tournament, but win it. Just did not compute to answer the question without the possibility of winning. So that's how Core would do
I didn't
it.
take Morg.
Let's go to the opposite. Mike, what would you take? Knobs or bobs, and for what format?
I'm the opposite of Carl. That's great. Yeah, I would take Black Hawk because I haven't taken them yet to a tournament and see what happens. Obviously, I wouldn't take any stars because that's wrong. But yeah, fouling would be fun.
See, Core, it's possible to have honour and manners and still play Blood Bowl. Just saying, just throwing that out there. Nick, knobs or bobs, and for what format and why?
I mean, I mainly play development, and I guess bobs, right? They're little sturdier. You can have some fun leveling up the. You can come up with some interesting things for the bobs and the goblins. I think development-wise.
Colin, Bazakastine, my friend. Knobs or bobs?
Knobs.
First one to like knobs this
100%.
evening.
Yeah, so I think Black Orcs are better in a lot of situations. I think Nobles have a higher ceiling. And so if you're trying to win things, I think Nobles is better.
I'm taking bobs. The goblins, the fouling possibilities. There's a goblin within me, and I'd love to do some of that on the tabletop, and we'll be doing so at some point. Okay, now we ended this way last time. I think it is time we wrap this up. You've all been incredibly generous with your time. Thank you hugely for that. So the first thing I just want to ask is whether it's been through following questions in the chat or just things I've not circled round to because I'm terrible at this and talk too much. What's left that you want to say? And then I'm going to ask what's the best or biggest surprise in Blood Bowl 2020 final question. So let's start with anything I haven't covered that you wanted to say or expected to say or you've picked up from the chat.
I think I'd take Black Orcs if that's all right.
You said at the start, Andy. That's why. But yes, I should circle back to you. Still Black Orcs, Andy, after all we've said.
Yeah, I want to try the fouling because I think I've seen Sneaky Git. It looks very strong, and when paired with Dirty Player as well, and potentially protected by a bribe, that just looks very, very strong.
Yeah, I mean, Sneaky Git is getting all sorts of people excited. I mean, as you're hearing from, Core even taking it on Elven teams, because it doesn't have to be the positional limiter it used to be. You can pop a cheeky foul in. If it doesn't work, you definitely won't be sent off and can move away afterwards. That's just such a huge change, and I'm not sure we've quite adjusted to the mindset of it. What else haven't we covered that you think we should? Nick, I don't feel we've talked enough about Australian Blood Bowl. Yes, we have.
Well, yeah, or maybe you have. One of my thoughts, just with the whole rule set, is passing and throwers, right? They went to a whole world of revamping all the throwers, revamping the whole passing tree in a way, and they've made, and it's supposed to be this whole now throwers are the specialist on the team at throwing. But when I look at the things, it's made me less want to take them because they've made them, unique and better than everyone else at passing, and some of them have improved slightly, but they've put up the cost of all of them as well. So, I don't know.
Hey, they also added wildly inaccurate, which...
Yeah, exactly. All these things.
Yes, wildly stupid pass.
Something that wasn't viable in any form of, a rule set before. And they've we've revamped it all and we've just made it worse. I don't know.
Colin, other than really just pointing out that we are running not only Blood Bowl 2020 rules in the competitive division on Fumble, but that you are running tournaments for those teams right now online. People can come along and play. What haven't I asked you or spoken to you about tonight that I should have done?
But you should have. I ain't got anything, to be honest.
Okay. Good.
We've had a good discussion about all kinds of things.
Yeah. I don't want to stay too much in any one rut on one of these. I want to keep it leaping around. And there is in my Discord, a channel where if you've got questions you want us to make sure are asked, then if I know ahead of time, I can program them in a bit better. We do try and respond to chat, but obviously, it's very fast moving. Several of us try and keep an eye on it. It's not always possible. My apologies for that. Core, you've had your chance, but I'm going to give it to you again. What are we wrong about? What are we missing? What have your eyes seen more clearly?
I was about to say, I think the main thing is still just people need to freaking come down and see how it goes. But Blood Bowl people wants to complain that's how Blood Bowl people works. Yeah. They want to scream Dorf, Dorf, Dorf and all shit. Let's come down and play some more Blood Bowl and just enjoy it, for fuck's sake, people.
That's what a wonderful and inspiring message, and very much at the core of what One World, One Blood Bowl is all about. Mike, I deliberately left you to last for this question because I want to change it ever so slightly for you. Not only what have I not asked you about that I absolutely should, which is definitely, Fumble, Facebook Blood Bowl, and just how difficult that must be to try and keep that community going or focused in any way. But the other thing, I want to ask you about all of that, and then the stinger on your question is, what are you seeing in the stats that people aren't talking about yet? But let's ask you about anything I should have talked about first, and then my stinger to you.
I think one thing that's going to come up soon is the designer's commentary, and I think it'll be interesting to see if there's any tweaks that are in there, because it was very much an FAQ last time, and I think they did a reasonable job of FAQing the FAQs. You see what I mean? There aren't that many outstanding, like, how does this thing work in the rules? So they've sorted that, but it'll be interesting to see if any other, because I think in other games there's a habit of using designer's commentary to tweak the rules, isn't there? So hopefully that won't happen. But I don't know. Will they start using it to say, okay, this is overpowered. This is a change to the rules.
So we might get actual, not just clarifying things and, oh yeah, we forgot to write that bit in the rules. Sorry, here's what we meant to say. But actual changes. Yeah. We've seen this happen. Well, that's not what we meant. We're changing this from now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next designer's commentary, basically, because I don't think maybe it just will be a very short document, or maybe there'll be something more interesting in there. I don't know. That's up and coming.
Okay.
It'd be interesting to see how Eurobowl develop, and obviously the NAF World Cup bidding process is going on at the moment as well. So that's a thing that might be worth talking about at some point. Leon are shouting a lot about how we're all going to France in 3 years' time. But who knows whether some others will come out of the. Maybe we'll go to Australia or the US instead. I don't know.
Wow, that would be incredible for the Euro Bowl. I'd have thought quite unlikely.
World Cup.
Maybe Israel. Oh, the World Cup. Yeah, well then why not?
The World Cup.
The world does
Yeah,
go
it's the
beyond
World
Europe, I hear, doesn't it?
What?
Now, make me go somewhere else. Don't come here.
Every time I listen to a European Blood Bowl player, I don't think Blood Bowl, apparently Blood Bowl skill and Blood Bowl, everything, thought, major ideas don't come out of anywhere but Europe. That's what I heard.
I mean, honestly, if anyone outside of Europe ever wins anything, it really casts a bad look on Europe because of the advantage they have.
Notice how none of the
bet you
4
on that,
European coaches here have said no to you, Nick, at this point. We'll just let that be.
Yeah.
Look, people play Blood Bowl all over the world. I mean, obviously, both Australia and America do have that physical locality problem. It's much harder to get people together when the next person is 3 ranches and 400 miles away. And in America, obviously, it's legions of time between various cities, isn't it? I mean, some of them hundreds of years in terms of their views on things. But also the physical distance is quite large too. So, what we've got you two on, do you think that is a factor? I mean, people do take the piss about both Australian and American Blood Bowl at times. Is it that lack of physical cohesion, do you think? Or is it just a stereotype?
No, I think Europe in general has lost so much power after the last 100 years. Then you grab on everything they can, and so they think Blood Bowl's that thing.
Fair enough. Nick, I did do a famous clip once describing your hot run. I don't know if you've ever had cause to see it.
Multiple people have shared that with me, PC. About how I just bully, drunk Americans and Australians and Europeans who haven't woken up yet. But I mean, the thing is, it's just a population thing for a lot of stuff, isn't it? Yeah. Europe's where the big tabletop scene is. It's where the game's created. It's just where it's going to explode naturally. But I mean, as there's all these online versions to play. I mean, it's such a worldwide thing now with online play. People can learn and get good without even, picking up a dice or a figurine anymore. Like you can play so much online. So I mean, to bring it back to the title of the podcast, it is really one world, one Blood Bowl in a lot of ways. That there isn't there's less of a it's becoming less of there's a German Blood Bowl or a Europe Blood Bowl or a American Blood Bowl and Australian Blood Bowl. It's just sort of everyone's sort of mashing together in a lot of ways and learning off each other and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it is the whole point of this is that I think there's a lot of Blood Bowl. There's 5 guys that play in a scout hut about 3 miles from where I live, and they do nothing other than that. They don't go online. They don't go to tournaments. They don't know of the NAF. I found them through a Facebook group that is just the 5 of them. And in the end, I decided, they're happy. Let's leave them being happy. They don't need me coming in, doing whatever I would do in their little world. That's how they want a Blood Bowl, and they haven't looked to go outside of that. And let's leave them to that. Right. I want to end because I don't want these to go on forever and ever and ever. And you've already given incredibly generously of your time this evening. And thank you very much in the chat. I am trying really hard to get your stuff involved. We don't do that enough, and we will try and find ways to do that more going forward. Just before I do my final close, though, I just want to end almost as we did with the last one. Let's imagine that this VOD is found in 10 years' time, and someone watches it back, and you're going to have a chance now to say something that's going to look incredibly wise to them in 10 years. What do you predict about this rule set that in 10 years everyone's going to go, wow, that's the first person that ever said that. My God, were they wise. So your wise, it can be a positive, a negative, a thing people aren't thinking about, anything you want. What is your wise sentence or takeaway about Blood Bowl 2020 that you're aware of or think of right now? Who wants to go first with that one? Andy.
Okay. It'll be replaced in 5 years with another rule set, and we won't come back to this.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there'll be another one.
Let's go to Nick.
One?
About this rule set, one thing that maybe could be possibly slept on is random general skills on elves. I think that could be a thing. I'm going to try it soon. We'll see. It could be okay. It could be very bad. But it's my one thought of where random skills could be, like, potentially viable, right? So we'll see.
Bazakastine, Colin, my friend, be wise for me. Say something that will ring through the ages.
Everything I think right now is wrong.
Car.
We might even, I would tell Andy, I think if they go a normal cycle of people buying Blood Bowl, you might even have Season 4 by 10 years from now. If we actually keep buying, if the collectors keep collecting, we might have more rules than just one extra. Because that's how it works. We need new catalogs to sell new miniatures.
Yeah. I've left you till last, Mike, apart from me.
I think we'll be reminiscing about the time when there were only 25, 26, 27 teams, and we'll be on 40, 50, and so on.
Wow,
we'll work our way through the pantheon.
Beautifully left field. I'm going to put my own in. I think we'll look back in 10 years and remember how much everyone really was dramatic about a change in rule set, because we'll be very used to them by then. The only thing that's permanent is impermanence. The only thing I'm certain of is change. And I think Blood Bowl's stayed still for far too long. I'm not saying all the changes are good, but I'm thrilled there's change, because there needed to be. It was an ossified rule set we'd all worked out. For 2 years we were excited because Wood Elves took tackle, and then they stopped doing it, and everyone was excited by that. Really. I mean, a game needs more than that to stay alive, to stay vibrant. That's it from me. Look, thank you all so much for coming on. Due to lots of feedback, and I'm always interested in feedback, there is a public One World, One Blood Bowl channel on my Discord, available down below this stream. Anything that, if you're watching in chat, that you want to say to me, I promise I will listen to it all. From the next episode, episode 4, I've confirmed the current guests are Crucifer, the greatest of all time in the CCL and Chalice on Blood Bowl 2. I think that's not under debate. Eliod, who's nice, and Metal, one of the great admins of the Rebel system. So quite a lineup. We may add a fifth person in, but at the moment I'm going to be looking maybe at slimming the numbers down to try and give everyone a bit more space and time on camera. Let me know if you think that's a good idea or a bad idea. If actually having someone like AndyDavo or Jimmy Fantastic on and then just watching them sit there frustrated and not able to speak for ages is secretly loads of fun, do let me know. But I feel I'm getting great people on and not giving them quite enough airspace. And that wasn't the point. The point was some people chatting, and perhaps 6 is too ambitious. But we are back in 2 weeks with those 4 people for certain. Maybe others, depending on what we think. But I hope people are enjoying it. It will be out on the vodcast at some point this evening or tomorrow, the YouTube at some point tomorrow, and on Sound Anchor and Spotify at some point tomorrow. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming along, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much to the contributors. They're all invited back. They're all lovely people. In 2 weeks' time, we'll do this again. I hope you'll be there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Night.